Thanks a lot. Hi, thanks a lot. I'm also your last speaker before you get to eat. So, yes, so thanks a lot. I'm excited to be here. I love London. I think it's my favorite city in the world, and I'm honored to be at this conference. I'm John. I'm a designer. I live in Los Angeles. For the last almost 4 years, I've worked as a creative director and user experience director at Media Temple, which is a web hosting and creative hosting company based in LA. Before that, I worked in advertising as a creative director for too long, and it made me get out of client services. But I still do some work on the side. I have a small studio where I do branding and brand development. And today I'm here to talk about designing for a 24-hour experience, which is designing in this really hyper-connected world that we live in that's really changing the way we work, the way we think, the way we create. And it's really about reaching people who are connected all the time on a variety of devices. And companies who aren't thinking about this are getting left behind and getting left behind very, very quickly. I mean, if you go back and you think about life before the internet, if you were doing design work, I used to do a lot of print work, and if you had a brand or a service, your way of generally connecting, if you couldn't run a TV spot, was to put an ad in a newspaper or magazine. And your communication and your connection was largely dependent on how much money you had and what kind of ad you can buy, if you were buying a small one on the rail or a quarter-page ad or a half-page ad or whatever. And hopefully someone once a week when they're flipping through would see your company and have a connection. This all changed when we put the internet in people's homes. And everyone knows this. We could log on and we could look at a brand and learn about them, and you know, maybe it was once a day, and now we have this ability to connect with people all the time, which is good and it's bad, but it's a great opportunity and challenge for us as designers and creators of content and experience. So I've given this talk a few times, and each time I like to do a very informal survey. So could you, if you on your person right now with you have a phone, can you raise your hand? Okay, most people. What about a laptop? Okay, not that many people with laptops in here. Interesting. All right. Tablets? Pretty good. Watches? Some kind of smartwatch, I should say. All right. The watches keep getting more and more each time I do this. So it's a pretty connected audience with multiple devices, which is really becoming the norm. So today I want to focus on 5 main things. 1, designing for people. Returning our design thinking to the origins of design and really designing to solve problems for people. Our connected audiences, we all know that we're connected, but there's been some really interesting studies and stats lately on this that I think are a little mind-blowing. Beauty and functionality, that marriage and advantage of creating beautiful and functional solutions and experiences. Number 4 is give people a reason to come back. Be more than just a one-time purchase and extend that post-purchase relationship. And number 5 is designing behaviors, understanding and anticipating user needs that help us create and dictate user behavior. So I just want people to know I'm not going to talk about web development. You don't want me to talk about web development. I haven't coded a website in a long time, but I have an amazing team of people that I work with, and there's a lot of other people here that can talk about code. So I'm not going to talk about code. I'm not going to talk about responsive, which is everything we do, and my work is responsive, and hopefully for you guys it is too, but I'm not the right person to talk about it. There's great resources out there. And just because I say brand doesn't mean it's a talk about just selling things, because it's pretty easy to just sell things. So this is really like a talk about people and users and behaviors and connecting with them, engaging, creating behavior, and designing for people. And in our world, we often call people things like users, customers, clients, and donors, things like that. And they connect with us via laptops, desktops, phones, tablets, watches, televisions, and whatever else got invented this morning. And it's pretty easy to put up an ad, or if you have money, put something up with the URL and get someone to go there. But what's difficult is getting them to come back and to actually connect with them. And I really do believe, and it's been like this for a while, that the fundamental challenge of any brand or service today is to connect with people on an emotional level. Connecting is pretty tough in that way. If you can create a memorable and emotional experience that's beneficial to people, they'll come back. And they'll bring their friends with them. And as I was saying, and as you all know, today we have an amazing opportunity to do this more often than ever. because people are more connected than ever. This is from, there's a great clip on The Daily Show of, they were parodying the Google Glass thing. But anyway, we all know that everyone is connected, and as everyone is online all the time, to the point that it's not even a thing being online anymore. And there's been a lot of interesting data on this, and I'm kind of endlessly fascinated by some of this stuff. So, and I think it's important to grasp the enormity of our dependency on devices nowadays before we really dive into talking about this. So I just want to show you a couple things, and this is from a study that came out this past April. It's pretty American-centric, but I think it translates. Nearly 2/3 of Americans are now smartphone owners. For many, these devices are a key entry point to the online world. So there are a lot of people out there that are looking at the things that you create that will only ever look at them on a phone. So if you're not ready for them on a phone, you're pretty much fucked, scientifically speaking. The average person checks their mobile about 150 times per day, but they rarely make phone calls. I mean, the phone is hardly a phone anymore, but we have so many opportunities today to connect with people and connect with them with the right way and offer them some kind of value. And to me as a designer, I mean, that's staggering and it's also exciting. It's a great opportunity. 25% of young adults are connecting from 4+ devices each week, and this really makes sense. Maybe you have a work computer, you have a home computer, tablet, phone. A lot of people in this room are connecting with 4 devices right now. And you know, it's not so much that they're changing devices, but it's understanding where they are, what time of day it is, what they're doing, why they're choosing one device over the other. And is what we're giving them on their phone what they want at that time, or are we just taking the desktop experience and shoving it into the phone? And what are they doing? Well, they're doing important things, right? They're doing mundane things. If you're a hypochondriac, you're on there searching, you know, ailments all the time. They're doing banking. They're looking for places to live. They're looking for jobs. They're looking up government services. They're taking classes. And these are core fundamental life things. It's not only just the Snapchatting of photos from Burning Man and stuff like that. There's a great dependency on this. Getting around, 67% of smartphone owners use their phone at least occasionally for turn-by-turn navigation. 31% do it frequently. I live in Los Angeles. It's probably no surprise to you that I'm in the car a lot. And I've been there for 5 years, and I can't get from point A to point B without using my phone to direct me or figure out what's the best way in the traffic. And it's great, but it is kind of that connectivity at a cost. Like, I can't tell you anyone's phone number anymore because it's all built into my phone. It's making things easier, but it's making me way more dependent on this device. 54% say their smartphone is not always needed, while 46% say they couldn't live without their smartphone. And this just keeps changing and becoming more and more dependent. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I thought this was awesome. So this is 2005, the inauguration of the Pope. And you'll see there's a couple guys, there's like this guy right here. I don't know if this laser's working with one of those old digital cameras that we used to have. And then 8 years later, there was a new Pope, and someone took a similar picture. And this is what it looked like, which is crazy, right? I mean, I think the most insane thing about this is this was almost 3 years ago. You know, there's no more digital cameras really. Like, there's phones. I mean, there's generations that will never know what it's like to carry a camera. They'll only know what it's like to carry a phone. There was this great tweet. I don't know if you guys saw this. My daughter just asked me why we say hang up the phone, and now I feel 90. I can completely relate to this. My kids have no understanding of what commercials are. If we're somewhere, like in a hotel and they're watching TV, they ask me to fast forward through the commercials, or pause it, or whatever. Things are very, very different. And we often say, in my line of work and your line of work, how does this look on, right? How does this look on this device or that device or whatever? We have a little safe at our work that's filled with like everything that's new and old, and you know, we constantly care about what these experiences look like on devices, and it's really important that they look good on the devices, but I think it's more important to step back for a minute and remember that on the other end of the device is someone holding it, and it's important to understand who these people are and where they are, when they're connecting, why they're connecting, what are they trying to do. And this isn't just young, cool, hip people. This is my dad. He's 67. We were on the train from London to Manchester, and he had his iPad, which I don't know what he was doing on there, and his iPhone. I mean, this is becoming the norm, and you need to be ready for these people, and they need to be ready for you. And so here's a super obvious statement. Being online is not a differentiator anymore. It hasn't been for a really long time. It was back here. And like, do you remember this noise and this experience? You know, I've been involved with this stuff since the mid-90s, and this was like the greatest noise ever. And you would sit down and you'd plug in and you would connect. What are you doing? Oh, I'm about to get online. And then you would, and then boom, you'd come into this world. You know, and it was awesome back then. And the experience was just being online, and the experience was just getting information and being in control and saying, I want to go learn about what's going on there. And Apple was doing movies from Mars, and Microsoft was like one of the first places to use a lot of iconography, and it was really exciting, and that was a great experience. But then some people decided that wasn't that enough of an experience, and we went into this world, which I don't know anything about this company. This is like one of the last great examples of a totally gratuitous Flash site that I could find, and I was 100% part of this, making sites for musicians and things like that. And this is just, for me, like just the epitome of selfish design. There's really nothing great here for the user. It's just all shoving bells and whistles at people, except for that last purple circle, which is just up there with no navigation. But anyway, like we moved away from that, and I think mobile has helped us, and it's really become kind of back into this idea about creating convenience and started thinking more about users and their wants and needs. And when we say connecting in the real world, a lot of the real world is starting on devices now, and with people holding devices. But I think it's really important to look at some real world brands, so to speak, that are that really understand real world experiences. Because connecting with customers at the right time and the right place, and for the right reasons, is one reason that some brands are so successful. And this is really not rocket science. My first example is a 13-year-old girl who's doing this. Girl Scout sells cookies outside pot dispensary, 117 boxes in 2 hours. That's amazing. I mean, talk about, you know, she set up a table outside of a pot dispensary to sell Girl Scout cookies. Not a pharmacy, not a grocery store, not a library, but a pot dispensary, which just translates to this for her, right? And this is an extremely competitive industry. People, Girl Scouts sell $700 million worth of cookies, and this kid just crushed it by just really understanding the particular needs of a particular customer at a particular place. So good for her. Has anyone been to Disneyland? No? A couple people? All right, awesome. I can't really tell you if you're missing anything. But I have 2 small boys. They love it. And when we go there, a lot of it looks like this, because we're standing in line for a really, really long time. And it's a really, really poor experience. I think what's amazing about Disneyland is how many people go there every year, if not more than once a year, and so much of the experience there sucks so bad. You're just standing in line, it's hot, everything's expensive, and they're brilliant there. They know when a line is getting too long. Aside from all the set decoration and stuff that goes on, they know when a line is getting too long, and they send out the characters, and the characters interact with the families, and you get your picture taken, and you forget you've been in line for 40 minutes, and the next 15 or 20 minutes you wait in line doesn't really feel that bad. So you've spent over an hour in line. If you've spent an hour in line at security at the airport, you know that sucks. If you've spent an hour in line with a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, that is like, that's hardcore. And so I thought about our day there, right? And we were there for 7.5 hours. I spent a little over $400, and we did 29 minutes of rides. And since I took this picture, we've been back twice. So I'm obviously a sucker, but it's fun. And I think the takeaway there is a lot of times we only really focus on making great experiences for people, but a lot of times when people interact with brands, they're having a poor experience. If I drop my iPhone, if I pull my iPhone out of my pocket and drop it and it cracks, I curse Apple, right? And it's not Apple's fault, it's my fault, because I was holding like 4 things. But when I go into the Apple store and I have that interaction to get my phone fixed, I'm reconnected with the brand. And I think It's really important to think about when people are having the lowest possible experience with your brand, and that's a really, really great time to start thinking about what you can do to bring them back and solve problems for them. And waiting in line is just something that happens. This is the real world now. And you could talk to some people and they would say, well, this is a captive audience. And places like BuzzFeed know this, and they put out this kind of content, right? And they started, I had someone at Creative Mornings, or I had someone from BuzzFeed, one of the editors there, speak at Creative Mornings, and they talked about how they went after the Bored at Work network with all these listicles, 35 reasons you know that you're from Sussex or wherever. And that was obviously a great entry point for them. And so now they're focusing on like the Bored in Line network. And a lot of people will have their first experience with this brand through the mobile device and these little things. And I'm not saying it's the best content, but it is the right content for the right audience at the right time in the right place. And if we shift to something a little bit bigger like air travel, which I find really fascinating, that has changed so much. I can't think of the last time I booked a ticket through a travel agent, and I didn't just book it myself. The whole process of travel used to start at the bookstore, at the library with travel books and looking at maps, and now it's like you just go on your phone, best places to go swimming in Iceland or whatever. And so you can start in a couple different places, right? But so much of your experience, like you can go through the entire travel planning process and never talk to anyone until you hand someone your boarding pass at security. So I hate United Airlines. It's like I've had the worst experiences there, and I think their website is a good reflection of what it feels like to fly United. And so your experience can start here, or it can start here, right? And this is the Virgin America site, and it's completely mobile first, and I think it just hits this beautiful point of design, simplicity, and usability. And I think that mobile really helps us simplify, and responsive sites make getting the info easy. But this feels a lot more than just a website. This is like an online ticketing experience, and there isn't any fluff. It's where are you, where do you want to go, what dates, choose your seats, and then my boarding pass is built into the phone. And it's really beautiful, and I think that it is very consistent with the Virgin experience, which is slick and clean and different. And I think that this is really solving a problem and presenting it beautifully. And it's important that functionality doesn't need to sacrifice beauty. Design can be too precious, but it can also be too dull. And as user experience people, we like things to work well and work fast and be easy and effortless. But I started my career making rock posters and zines and magazines and things like that, and I want to make things that are beautiful. And I think in this really competitive world where there's 15 versions of everything, the things that are beautiful and functional are the things that rise to the top. They've been doing this study in Germany, and there was an article in the New York Times about it, about how we react to things that are beautiful. And I thought this quote was interesting. Brain scan studies reveal that the sight of an attractive product can trigger the part of the motor cerebellum that governs hand movement. Instinctively, we reach out for attractive things. Beauty literally moves us. And I think we all know that feeling of seeing something great. Like there's a store around the corner here that is most beautifully packaged chips or crisps, right? And I just want to buy all of them because I'm like this in the store. And I don't know what they taste like. This beer, I don't know what it tastes like, but damn, that bottle is amazing. I want it on my shelf. I'm like never gonna open it. It's gonna ferment in front of me, but I love it. And you've seen this type a lot, but there's something about this way that Vignelli did this that is just like, it's moving. My kids are obsessed with this movie, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I think is the most beautifully painstaking, awesome movie ever. And even not far from here, this painting that if you ever took art history, you wrote numerous papers about that mirror in the back. I kind of just find myself being pulled through the gallery to this thing. And and then you talk about functionality, and maybe we can appreciate the beauty and the function of a light switch where the universality of it is great. You just know you flick it on, it works. We tend to complicate things. I don't have the source for this picture, but it's great. Someone posted this, and this is a guy who optimized remotes for his parents, because there's so much extraneous bullshit in here. And and now it's been taken to the next level, right? And I don't have an Apple TV, but I kind of want to try this remote out. But what I do have is this thing. And sometimes I look at it and I'm like, why did I buy this? And I know why I bought it. Like, it's beautiful and it's fun to use. It is a marriage of beauty and function. Now, I had a thermostat. It worked great. My house got cool, my house got hot, I could adjust the temperature. I never thought about it. I can't even tell you what model it is. This thing, like, I'm into. I walk by it, it lights up. I'm like, that's cool. I can control it with my phone. I don't know. Is that cool? I guess. It's just great. But the one thing that's interesting about it is that, compared to the other thermostat, like, I really enjoy using it. I think the experience of, like, having to turn this dial, and if you have one, the way you enter a password, it's really interesting the way they've thought about it. Is it superfluous? I don't know, probably, but I love it. They send me a newsletter with a bunch of stats that mean nothing to me, but it keeps connecting me, and I think about it, right? I'm standing here in a design conference in London talking about a thermostat. So I think that there is a statistical and reciprocal nature to it that I really do enjoy. It really is more than a transaction. Like, I use my fridge way more than that thing, but I can't tell you what kind of fridge I have. And I feel some kind of connection to this, and it feels very Fahrenheit 451, but I don't know. But when we talk about reciprocal relationships, I think one company that's amazing with this is Nike. And a lot of brands study Nike, and I mean, the idea of just having a logo that never needs to have a name is kind of amazing, and it's just a symbol. But they obviously are the #1 maker of running shoes. If Nike only made this running shoe for the rest of existence in different colors and whatever, they would still crush everyone. But great brands continue to innovate, and they wanted to figure out new ways to reach customers. And so they did a study, and they looked at what happens when people leave the store. So they looked at people, and they're like, all right, well, we're doing pretty well. People are buying the shoes. They're also buying the pants. They're also buying the shirts and the hats and whatever else. And they were looking at people's running, and they looked at their behavior, and this is obviously years ago, and they noticed everyone was wearing these white headphones. And this is soon after the iPod came out, and they wanted to figure out a way to shift and work with this device, and they didn't really know what to do, and you all know where this is going. They came up with this thing called Nike Plus. And the thing that's genius about this is people that have bought Nikes, when you go for a run, you put on your Nike shoes. You don't think about it. You put on your Nike shorts, whatever. This thing you think about. You connect with it. It gives you statistical readout. You keep coming back and back and back to the brand. And it's a really, really conscious connection that is a little bit more beneficial than just putting on a pair of shoes. And they really took a one-time transaction and turned it to a 360 experience. And getting people to reconnect is more difficult than even getting them to disconnect the first time. And obviously, Nike is an enormous company. That initiative took a long time. It was an investment in time, in money, in manpower. And so what can we do for those of us who don't have those large teams? I have about 10 or 12 people on my team, which I think is a pretty decent-sized team. And I think part of it is knowing your customers, because that will help you dictate your roadmap. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things that my team's been working on at Media Temple. And I was a customer there since like 2006 when I went to work there. I had no idea why they needed a creative director, and then they told me they kind of wanted to redo the brand and a lot of the UX stuff. So this was the old website when I started there. It was also the website that made me and pretty much all the other designers I knew customers. But when I talked to customers, it was not an adequate a reflection of who the company was. And the company basically was known for great support with real people you get on the phone, and all the designers hosted there. So it was like the community was there. So we went through this large process. We redid the site about 18 months ago. No one had ever seen inside the company before. We put lots of pictures of people, of our customers, of our process, and it kind of helped shift from just being like a faceless tech company to more of a people service-based company, which is really what it was. And at the same time, we have this thing called the Account Center, which is where everyone goes in to manage their services. We didn't have the bandwidth at the time to redo it, even though it drove me crazy that we didn't have that consistency between front and back end. But in the market, it still looked and worked better than most of the other control panels. So, and no one ever really complained about it except us. But anyway, we went into redesigning it, and we knew one of the things is that we needed to make it responsive, and it was going to be a massive, massive project because the code base, hadn't changed in a long time. And one of the things we looked at was no one was visiting us between 8 and 11, and people are only going in like maybe once a week when they had to do something. Because most of the time, that green line, if you can see it, is internet usage. And that's when it's at the highest in the evenings, people on their tablets, longer sessions. And we weren't getting any of those people. So we kind of threw around this idea of thinking about a 24-hour user journey for people and focusing the stakeholder interviews more on what people were doing, not necessarily with Media Temple products, but a little bit more behavioral. Like, what were their days like? And when were they using different devices? And where was their dependency on the devices? And what could we really do with these different things that we had that people were really dependent on running their business? So I changed up kind of the questions that I usually ask. And I asked them stuff like, where is your phone when you wake up in the morning? And I will tell you, of all the people I talked to, 100% of the people I talked to said it was next to their bed. And most of them said that after their alarm goes off or they wake up, they look at their email. What do you eat for breakfast Monday through Friday? If people were grabbing coffee or an apple and running out the door, there's like less of five minutes that maybe they'd spend on an iPhone. If they're having a proper breakfast, sitting down, then they usually had more than 15 minutes of screen time, checking email. They were using a tablet, a laptop, a phone. And so there's little like housekeeping things that we could do to make easier for them so they didn't have to do it when they got into the office. How do you get to work? Were you walking, maybe looking at a phone? Biking to work, hopefully not looking at a phone. Driving, hopefully not looking at a phone. But we found out most people were listening to podcasts and stuff, or their phone was active with some kind of navigation. But I drive to work every day, and sadly, everyone around me is looking at their phones. It's incredibly scary. Public transit, they were on tablets. And so there were all these different areas where we could give them something that they could use. And it's not this shoving needless stuff at them. It's actually giving them something that's useful. Oh, this was a good one. Where are you when you have an awesome idea? No one said that they were at their computer. Most people were either at drinks or lunch with friends. That was the main thing we heard. Some people were running in the shower, which I think is pretty spot on. But if you're in the business of selling web hosting and domains, and the conversation, oh my God, that's a great idea. I wonder if that domain's available. And you go when you're at lunch to look to see if the place you buy your domains from doesn't have a responsive site or a way for you to buy it, then that's a problem for us. So we put together this kind of chart, check email at 6, maybe they spin up a WordPress instance at like 10:30, they come up with a domain name at lunch, they get a security notification on their phone, they're looking at some content from our blog on the way home, and then trying to get them to come back at night while they're checking Facebook and they're checking Twitter and they're looking at stocks. How can we get them to just jump in for just a few seconds so we become part of that behavior? And we're trying to be really conscious to not just shove shit at them, like actually give them something they want to use. So we went and redid the account center. We cleaned it up a lot. It was fully responsive. We did a lot of a very slow beta rollout where people could go back and forth. We had a ton of communication with our customers, and we made a lot of very quick changes to give them what they wanted. People have been using this thing for years, so we didn't want to completely screw up their workflows. We were very conscious of that. And we've seen a lot of the usage go up. And I feel like we are definitely shifting that usage of the Account Center from needing to go into the Account Center to fix a problem to wanting to go into the Account Center. And we're getting people to go in multiple times a day. We're seeing sessions in the evening. And some of it is because of things like we knew that they wanted security monitoring. If anyone does client services, and the worst thing ever is when there's a story on the news about a hack. All your clients call you, hey, did you see that thing about the hack? Is my site okay? And whatever. So now the client could go on and they could just look on the phone and see everything's good, green dot. And then we put in stuff that we thought they may like, but they didn't explicitly ask for it, like PHP settings that people could do on the phone. And this one dude just recently tweeted, fixing a PHP server bug on the bus on my phone through Media Temple's awesome UI after spending 4 hours trying to fix it yesterday. And it was great that the phone was so much easier. And this guy's on a bus in Australia, and that to me was one of the best pieces of feedback we have. And one thing we heard from people, which you will hear from people when you talk to them, is people love stats, right? People love statistics. Clients love statistics. And so we put Google Analytics. Right now it's just in our WordPress product, but we're rolling it out through the other ones. But we didn't give them everything that was in Google Analytics. We gave them things that they were asking for, like visitors, what kind of devices they're using. We designed these charts, and we're seeing a ton of people going in and using this. The more people go in, the better experience they have. Our sales through the Account Center are up like 200%. And one of the other things we thought about per the Disney model is how are we making life how are we making our customers' lives easier when they are having the worst experience with our brand? And a lot of that is when something doesn't work or they can't figure something out, because hosting a website can be complicated. So this was our old self-help section, which, and I will be totally honest with you, when I was a user, I could never use. So if you can't use that, you call, and the support volume goes up. And so, and also this wasn't responsive, so we burned this down, and we made the phone one super easy. Just type in a question, you get a response. And the iPad version has more categories and product base, and it's been really, really doing well for us, and people appreciate it. And I think, it's that thing when your customers are having their lowest experience with your brand, you really can't panic. You should figure out how to really make them love you more. And we're getting a lot of positive feedback on this, so that makes me happy. So I've got about 10 minutes left, and I'm going to shift a little bit drastically to talk about sort of creating behavior and design and doing this offline. I love doing packaging design. It's one of my favorite things. And I was recently, about a year or so ago, approached by a company called Better Booch. Has anyone here drank kombucha? Is that a thing over here yet? Not really? Okay. It wasn't a few months ago when I was here talking about this, doing a workshop. So it's kind of a fermented tea. It tastes like vinegar. It tastes as disgusting as it sounds. But it's a really big deal in LA and in the States, and it's a very competitive industry right now. It's kind of going to be like the new coconut water, they're saying, if cactus or maple water doesn't beat it there first. So they wanted to redo this. They said that they didn't like their bottles. And so I looked at this thing. The product had really silly names like Original Gangster and Princess Peach and Fred Astaire Pear, and it just didn't feel refreshing to me. It felt super medicinal, and it tasted amazing, actually. I tried about 20 of these different kombuchas, and they all tasted pretty awful. This one tasted more like a cider because it was made with tea. So I thought the drinkability would be the thing to do. But just like in designing experience for people online, like you can't make assumptions and you can't design for yourself. Because it turned out when I went to farmers markets to do like this brand assessment for them, the worse the kombucha tastes, the more the kombucha people liked it. They felt like it was really working. And so we kind of had to pivot and do something totally different, which was good. And our three main target markets, and it's always, I believe in the power of three for most stuff, and it's great to have three markets. You have to get the clients to focus. Were active women. Most of their drinkers were women. They were working out 3 days a week. They were health conscious, social, a group that we called healthy hipsters, which is very east side of LA. They don't maybe work out all the time, but they're going to farmers markets, they're buying organic, and we wanted to replace their coconut waters and fresh juices with this kombucha, and guys who care, guys who are influenced by their partners, and were drawn to package design. So did a lot of sort of investigation about this, a lot of talking to customers and potential customers, and we came up with these three pillars. And on the branding side, I've always felt like having three pillars, doesn't matter if the company was Toyota or if it was Better Booch. Like if you can get them to commit to three, then you're golden. And these are three things that the brand needs to stand for, and everything they do needs to somehow align with these pillars. So made in LA, everyday health, and premium choice. So if you don't live in LA and you think of LA, you probably think of smog, traffic, Hollywood, and it definitely has that portion of it. I grew up in San Francisco. I hated it. I hated LA, but I love living there now. It's amazing. And there is a side of LA that is very considered. It's casual, it's bohemian, it's explorative, it's trend-setting, it's industrious. And we wanted that feeling of LA, especially since they're selling the product in that market, to come out in the packaging. Everyday health. People that were being healthy, they were hiking and walking and riding bikes and buying organic and going to Whole Foods and going to farmers market. How could we appeal to them without just getting like super cheesy with yoga imagery? And premium choice. Like everything in this market was brown. Every bottle was medicinal. Nothing was simple. Everything was like super hippie, Eastern looking, and we wanted it to be very refined. And some of the direction I gave them, there's a place here in London called Caravan. I don't know if people have been there. Like, I love their aesthetic. It's great. It's just simple and clean. And a place in Silver Lake in LA called Moon Juice had that kind of like casual bohemian side. What I didn't want it to be was like this, brown, yoga-y, and the usage and the art direction and telling the story is really important because no one works out holding a bottle like this, right? I understand this is a celebrity endorsement, but something that made it feel like I could relate to it. Like maybe I'd ride a bike and carry it, or maybe I'd be on a walk and carry it. So these were the old bottles, and this is what we did. So it's all white, and it just pops off the shelf in this world of brown. And the colors are very saturated, really big pop that really stands out and has a lot of alignment with the flavors. And turns out, another assumption I made is that people hate these bottles, but they really love them. They love the medicinal side of these bottles. So we kept this bottle that I lovingly called a shampoo bottle. I worked with an amazing illustrator called James Gulliver Hancock, who drew this mural, and I asked him to just draw like what the east side of LA feels like. And so there is people doing yoga, there's people surfing, there's all these Easter eggs about LA built into them, and we're putting it on the mural of we're making a mural and putting it on the back of their shop. We extend it across six-packs, growlers. This is their shop kind of in development. It's been doing really well for them. They've gotten a ton of great press. And I think one of the best things we did, and most difficult, is we changed all the names of the drinks. And this was difficult because there was some brand equity, but the names were just bad. Like Daily Revival used to be called Original Gangster. And Daily Revival, I think solely based on the name, is why it's their #1 seller. And at their bar in the morning, the one that they sell the most that people buy on the way to work is called Morning Glory. And that used to be called Princess Peach. And when you do that, people love instructions. People follow the instructions and they talk about them. Here's a tweet. What do you do after running in 80-degree weather? Have a Better Booch revival time. It doesn't work if it says have a Better Booch original gangster time. Like it doesn't work. And I'm a big believer in message diversity over message discipline. I don't believe that hitting the like button does anything for anyone. It's just repetitive. But message diversity, if you can put something out there and allow people to tell a story based on their usage, that diversity is what makes things interesting. And right now, as designers, we have this amazing opportunity to harness this tool that marketing companies have spent millions of dollars trying to get this kind of press from, and this is Instagram. Like if you can design something, like especially a physical product that looks beautiful and resonates with someone and has some kind of instructional, behavioral type of angle, people are going to extend this for you, right? Here's two friends that were on like a charity run, and they're holding up the bottles. You know, no one asked them to do that. Here's a family getting ice cream, but the parents are getting kombucha, and a woman in the middle holding this thing up that says, "It's true, I drink it on the daily," because it's called Daily Revival. It doesn't work again if it says it's true, I drink it on the gangster. It just doesn't make sense. So naming matters, right? And it's instructive and it's behavioral. And this whole thing worked out great for them. They got in the fridge with Stumptown where they wanted to be. They became the kombucha of the Ace Hotel in downtown LA, and it works, and it's great brand association for them. And you know, the client had balls. They were cool about changing all this stuff. And I think so much of the success is that kind of marriage of beautiful, unique packaging in the space and function. You know, the names really did create a behavior for people because we found out people were buying more than 2 of these drinks a day, which seems really harsh on your system, but they were. And so why not buy ours? So I have just like a minute left. So I'm going to go through the last couple of slides pretty quickly here. It was kind of a lot of stuff. So I believe that, you know, good designers have always designed with people in mind. A lot of people will say that design is truly about solving problems, and these are generally problems that people have, whether it's how to get from home to work or how to send out an email newsletter campaign. The really great designs not only solve problems, but they create behaviors. They give people what they want and what they don't even know that they want. And it's trying to make something that really helps someone, improves their lives and their workflows, and gives them something that they feel that they can't live without. And you don't want to be a one-off. You need to go beyond the time of purchase. Give them a reason to come back. Give them a reason to connect and to reconnect. Maybe it's something like Nike Plus. Maybe it's something like Nest. Maybe it's, you know, the stats in our account center. You know, maybe it's something that's more time-based. But give them a reason to come back. Don't just get that one interaction, and barraging them with emails doesn't always get them to come back. Anticipate and influence behavior. Understand why they're connecting. Understand why they're interacting with your product at 11 p.m. and why they're interacting with it at 9:45 p.m. Where are they? What are they doing? What are they holding? What are they trying to get done at those times of days? Shift the need to do something to a want to do something. You know the difference between need and want. You need to do laundry. You need to put gas in your car. You want to go to the movies. The things that you work on should ideally be things that people want to use. Can you think of reasons why people would really want to use what you're creating? And there's a lot of crap out there. There's a lot of nonsense and things we just don't need. I feel like all the banner ad stuff happening on mobile is just so depressing. And the pop-ups and the push notifications and all that stuff, you know, like there are companies out there really taking advantage of people's connectivity, and you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that person, right? As designers, we have this amazing job where we get to make things for people, you know, and ideally they're beautiful, they're functional, because the landscape is competitive. If you can make something that looks really great and works really great, it's definitely going to come to the top. It should be helpful, save people time. With a lot of the work that we're trying to do with some of the monotony that's associated around like hosting websites, which I know you're all know, we're trying to figure out ways to save people time. Maybe it's integrating with software they already use, something that like just makes their day easier and they can spend less time doing maintenance and more time creating, and make it enjoyable. Life is rough at times. Things are difficult. Like, if as designers, like, we have a great opportunity to make things that people enjoy, and it doesn't mean it's silly copy and animated GIFs and all that stuff, which is great, but like give people enjoyable experiences. I think the Virgin ticketing experience is enjoyable, and I think that that is a great nod. If you haven't checked that out, it's virginamerica.com. I am not at all connected to that, aside from being a frequent flyer mileage holder. So how well do you know your customers, your audience's 24-hour journey? Ask yourself if you're taking full advantage or maybe too much advantage of them. Are you giving them what they want? Can you do more for them? Do they really have a reason why they want to use your product? I'll be around for a little bit. I am contactable on Twitter and email and everything. And thanks so much for listening to me, and have a great time here.